Thank you for joining and welcome for the 5 golden rules in your investment journey, your wealth creation. Rule number 1, be a good steward. Be a good steward. Who is a steward? A steward is a person or a group of persons who are charged with the responsibility of managing other people's resources. If you are put in a place of managing other people's resources, then you are supposed to account for the resources that you are managing and transparently responsibly report or give a feedback on how good you are utilizing those resources, because there will always be a purpose. In the essence of being a steward, we bring into perspective the fact that yes, the resources that you are managing, until you put yourself into the mindset that the person who is managing the resources and the owner, who are both in you, are two different people. Remember, the physical you are transiting, you are in a journey, and every day that you wake up, you are transiting from one point to another, and therefore you will be moving from a you in the past that was depending on other people, a you who is today actively generating resources, actively building resources, and a you of tomorrow, the person that we are managing the resources for, is the you that will be living in days to come. That is the time people talk about retirement. There is a you who will be living tomorrow, and that is the person for whom you are managing your resources today. And therefore, you must lead a sustainable life. Sustainable life or sustainable living calls for using resources that you have today in realization that people who are to come, you of tomorrow, will require those resources to live on. And therefore, with that mindset, you will live within, or you will tailor a lifestyle that utilizes a percentage of what you have today, knowing that the you of tomorrow, who is you tomorrow, you may not necessarily have the resources that you have today to generate active income. That means, as a steward who is managing resources, you should be able to identify specific resources that you are working on. And I have 3 that you must look at. 3 resources that if you mismanage these 3 resources, if you don't account for yourself how you are using these 3 resources, the you of tomorrow will regret. The you of tomorrow will suffer. The first resource is time. You need to be a good time manager. You need to know the resources that you have, or you need to know what you have that you can shield you against your time in order to be able to generate enough of the third resource, that is money. Because to generate money, you need your first 2 resources, which is time, and the second one is energy. How you manage your time will determine how much money you make. And when we talk of saving, many of us think about money. They forget about time. You need to save time. Saving simply means guard against waste. Don't waste your time. Plan your time in such a way that you can utilize that time to generate money and create enough time to recreate yourself, re-energize yourself. The second resource is energy. Your physical health, which is energy, is very important as a factor in generating money. You require a healthy self, a healthy person in you, both mentally, spiritually, and physically, in order to be able to generate money, and so that you make or you save good health for the you of tomorrow. Because if you don't save time and use that time to work on your self-health, the energy aspect, then the you of tomorrow will be in trouble and there will be regret. Then the third resource automatically will be, if you utilize your time well and your energy well and you channel the two towards opportunities, you will make money. Creation of money or cash flow depends on you as a steward realizing of the opportunities that are within you before you even face the opportunities that are outside you or brought about by other people. Know your skills, and if it's possible, keep building and sharpening your skills. Your skills is the enabler to making money. Number two, appreciate, acknowledge your talents. Acknowledge your potentials and strengths. Know your weaknesses. Acknowledge the people around you. How many people do you have in your social media handles? How many followers do you have in TikTok? How many do you have in YouTube? How many do you have in Instagram? How many do you have in other platforms? Part of your net worth will look at yourself, your health, your skills, and people. People is a great attribute of your net worth. How can you monetize all those items, your skills, the people, the energies, the opportunities within you to make money? Before you sell time, energy, skill to outside people or opportunities in order to make money. That is the aspect of rule number one, being a good steward. Being a good steward. You are managing resources. You have to know the resources that you are managing. Plan for them before we move to rule number two. Know your expense list or your list of expenses. And expenses in this aspect, we are looking at the general aspect of expenditure, both revenue expenses and the capital expenditures. You must have a list. You have a list of all your expenses. Plan your expenditures. This calls for the steward getting into control. You are in control of the movement of the resource of money. We have appreciated the steward in rule number one. In rule number two, the steward gets to understand the limits. We have listed our expenses. The lifestyle expenses, those are the living expenses, both the needs and the wants. We also have the capital expenditures. If we have any facilities that we need to pay for, if we have relatives that we are supporting, all expenditures need to be known. Just know the list of your expenses. Once you have known your list of expenses, those are your needs. You have established your needs. Then, as a steward, you are going to use the resources that you are managing to generate resources or money, cash inflows to cater for these needs. And that is rule number three. Rule number three is you create and expand your incomes. Create and expand your cash inflows. We have already devised our list of expenses. We have our resources. And being good managers, we are going to apply the assets in us, the person. You are the greatest asset. It is assets that generate revenues. So you are going to apply yourself into opportunities including the ones that we have highlighted there in you, to generate and expand your incomes, your cash inflows, to take care of the expenses that you have just established. You have known your expenses. You are supposed to go flat out to build incomes to cater for these expenses. Then rule number 4, keep, don't spend. Keep, don't spend. You have generated your incomes and you have catered for the expenses because you tailor your own lifestyle. Your life is in your control. You are the steward, the manager of your life. If you want to live large, you have gone out in rule number 3 and you have generated enough incomes to live a large life. Those incomes that you have generated, if they are exceeding your needs, the part that is excess of your needs, don't squander it. Don't use it. Keep it. And in keeping, the rule of keep, don't spend is in cognizant that you have gone out, you have generated incomes that exceed your needs, the list of expenses in rule number 2. So the excess bit is what you keep. In keeping, there are questions that arise there. 1, we need to know where we are keeping that money or those resources. We need to know what we are guarding these resources or the risks that can expose our resources. The risk of losing those resources, the risk of loss of value. We need to keep those resources in places where they are protected against loss. We need to keep that money in vehicles that guard our money against losing value. And that is the question that comes in. We need to know about inflation. We need to know that money loses value. Money depreciates if not guarded against. So to protect our money from losing its value, we will choose opportunities that compensate for that loss of value, because loss of value is guaranteed. We need to know the rate of inflation existing every moment, then get opportunities or saving platforms that compensate or pay us a return that compensates for the loss of value, so that throughout time we'll be able to retain the value of that money. Then rule number 5, build assets, accumulate assets, expand your pool of cash flow generating assets. Rule number 4, we were keeping just accumulation. We were piling our capital. And rule number 5, which can run simultaneously with rule number 4, is build assets. Build asset. The person of the future that we have agreed we are going to live sustainably. We are going to manage our resources sustainably so that our future self will have resources from our self now to live on, would require we use our active resources today when we have the time, we have the energy, and we have the money to build assets, wealth. Remember, wealth is what you keep. Wealth is what you don't spend. We will amass, build assets, accumulate cash flow generating assets that will outlive us. Assets that will take care of us when we are unable to use our energy to generate money, when we will have chosen to pursue other aspirations. Therefore, rule number 5 is very important. we need to know where the amounts that we have kept will be applied in order to grow. We need to know opportunities where we have put our money that we have kept in rule number 4 that will start generating more money. It is at this point where we are looking at compounding. At this point, we are looking at long-term periods. We are looking at scheduled goals, goals that have been scheduled with time, goals that are measured. It is all those aspects that we talk about as rules of investing will apply. You cannot invest if you don't have money. You can't invest if you don't have the resources. So rule number 3 of going flat out and generating money. I did not talk of a budget. I did not talk a budget. It is coming out, generate money that exceeds your needs. So at rule number 2, you cut out, you tailored a lifestyle. And this lifestyle will keep on changing over time as our life change. And therefore, the pooling, these are moving goals. And rule number 5, we will keep on accumulating our assets until we achieve our set goals. Thank you for watching. Those are the 5 golden rules of investing. A summary: be a good steward. Number 2, know your list of expenses. Number 3, generate incomes that cover your expenses and fund your rule number 4 of keep, don't spend. And rule number 5, allocate the accumulated savings into assets, into opportunities that will be generating cash flows to support the future self. Additional summary or additional rules will include: live within your means, cut all unplanned expenditure, cut all impulse buying. Rule number 3, have an emergency fund or accumulate enough savings to pay your bills. Number 4, invest in what you know. And lastly, use public transport. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.